Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Today is the 28th of July. Can you believe we're already at the end of July? That's crazy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I see lots of people have already come and joined us. Thank you so much. I kind of like it when we're able to come in early and chat with each other before we get started. Sometimes I'm getting everything ready up until the last minute, so sometimes I have more time to chat than others. But hello, it's so great to see you. Today we're doing a block number 9, y'all, the wheels block. Before we get started, this block will probably be the most complicated block we're doing of this sampler quilt. We have 3 more blocks to do after today. We're going to hopefully take our time piecing this together. We have some cutting to do before we get started. And this block has the most seams to sew out of all the blocks of this quilt. I need to make sure this chat is working. There we go. Hello, everybody. There y'all are. Tonight, if you're on Patreon, we're doing the thread painting workshop. There's a PDF already uploaded for you. I did not have time to finish the daffodil pattern. So I pulled one of the Etsy listings off of Etsy and I've loaded it there for you. You have the PDF and SVGs if you want to work with applique tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link will be on Patreon for you to join me. Vicky will be over in the thread painting workshop this evening, so she is not hosting a Zoom, but maybe someone else on Creative Crew, if they want to host a Zoom, keep your eyes out for that. And at the end of our wheels block today, we're going to go back over to Creative Crew and see your progress. Tommy says, does it send a reminder? Patreon or YouTube? Which one? Hello, everybody. Yeah, we're going to take a look at your progress at the end of today's block. I know there's a few pictures already uploaded over there, so we do have stuff to look at. And y'all bear with me because I don't see any moderators here yet. And so I'm going to be really trying to focus to make sure everything goes smooth in the chat while we're working with this block today. Patreon. Tommy, if you're on Patreon, check your emails that you have signed up with Patreon with, because you should be getting emails from me through Patreon. So check your emails. And if you don't see any there, check your spam box or your trash box in your email, because it might be sending them there. The Zeta Rose, thank you so much. I was going to answer your question today because I just saw that just a few minutes before we began about the thread tension. Thank you. She said, I want to know why you changed your tension to a -1 when you were free motion stitching. Sometimes, depending on the thread and the fabric you're working with, you will need to change your tension. If you see some stitches that look very, very tight, or it looks like, if you flip it over, it looks like your top thread is being pulled to the back, you need to lower that tension. You always, whenever you're changing threads or working with different thicknesses of fabric or a different kind of needle, keep an eye on that tension, even when you're piecing, okay? If it feels like it's really tight or you're breaking your top thread, you probably need to lower that top tension. I hope that answers it some. All right, y'all, I'm going to switch over to the cutting mat. And we're going to take a look at my fabrics today. I have everything pre-cut. Let's go over the sizes for a minute. And we hit on this just a minute yesterday, but our pieces, we're cutting these pieces a little bit different than the rest of the blocks in this quilt, right? So here's our pieces. I do have 2 pieces there. These are the red and these are the blue. We're going to take a look. We should have 6 of the barn red that are cut 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. And if you're just now joining me and you missed yesterday's video, go check out the end of yesterday's video. I show on your ruler where that 3 7/8 mark is, so you can take a look at that. And then we need 2 pieces of fabric. I'm using the green and the light cream color. These are cut 7 1/4 by 7 1/4. And then you should have 2 of the sky blue, and these are also cut 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. Hello, everybody. All right, so because we have so much to do for this block, we're going to jump in, okay? There are some cutting instructions right here on the PDF, but we're going to go through it together. We're going to move these smaller pieces out of the way for just a second. We're going to be working with the 2 pieces that are 7 1/4 by 7 1/4. I have them lined up, one on top of the other. Nice and pretty, nice and even. We're going to be cutting these 2 pieces 2 times. We're cutting on the diagonal just like this, okay? That's what we're going to do to get started. So I'm just going to line this up, and we're going to make sure it's going from corner to corner. We're cutting the first time. Then we're cutting one more time. I'm just going to flip them around and try to line this up nice and neat like that. See if I can do it without scooting anything around. We want to make sure these cuts are nice and precise. Corner to corner. This is the second cut. Alrighty. So there are our pieces. I'm going to go ahead and sort these out by color. You'll see now we have 4 green triangles and 4 of these light beige triangles. We're going to set those aside because now we're bringing in these 3 7/8 pieces, okay? These pieces we are cutting, but this time we're only cutting these pieces one time on the diagonal. So we're going to go through this stack, and we're going to make a bunch of triangles, cutting them right from corner to corner. For a little bit better control, I'm going to do 2 at a time. Sometimes I'll cut layers of fabric 4 at a time, but I want to make sure this ruler is not slipping and sliding around. Yep, it's time for a new blade. Here's 2 more. I like to make sure they're exactly lined up if I can. And I have these last 2. So that should give us 12 of the red triangles and 4 of the blue. A lot of triangles, y'all. So there we go. There's all of our pre-cutting. And if you're sewing with me live, I'm going to give it a second so that you can cut your pieces. So great to see y'all. Thank y'all so much for joining me, and I love that y'all have this opportunity to catch up with everybody. Ooh, Delia said, I downloaded the pattern yesterday, and I'm going to try this quilt. Yay! Dari said, this block is looking like a lot of piecing. It is, Dari. It's the most high maintenance quilt block of this quilt. She's got lots of cutting and lots of seams. Which reminds me, go ahead and set your 1/4 inch seam allowance. And for me, I'm using the scant 1/4 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm ready to start sewing. Ah, Dari, you got the SVGs. Yay. That'll save you a lot of time in cutting. Lisa said, I'm glad I did not sew this block ahead of time before I watched this. Yeah, some of the blocks are really easy, and I feel like you could knock them out. The ones you're unsure of, I would wait until you see the video. And that's one of the cool things about doing the sew along with this pattern is that you do get, like, for each one of the blocks, you get to actually see it being made, and we get to have a discussion about it for each one of the blocks. Thank you, Dari. Yep, it's growing and growing. I'm working hard on that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to lay out all of these pieces for this block before we start sewing anything. Okay, and it might help to have your little colored diagram where you can see it. I'm going to have it off a little bit so that I can fit these pieces in. We're going to start with the green triangle and a beige triangle. And then I have to scoot off even more. There we go. Green triangle, beige triangle. Beige and green. Beige and green. See how that beige forms a little pinwheel? Isn't that going to be pretty? Next, since we only have 4 of the blue ones, let's lay these blue ones in. Now these pieces are going to start overlapping, so it might look a little messy for a minute as we start sewing everything together. I will space it out a little bit. There we go. There's our blue pieces. And then the red comes in. And they will be overlapping. So it's going to look messy, but it'll all start coming together here shortly. Ooh, that's going to be pretty. That's going to be pretty. Anitra said, you rock live instructions. I do feel like I've gotten a lot better, Anitra. I think I have some room for improvement, but I do think I've gotten a lot better. All right, y'all. This is a preview of what this block is going to look like. Don't you love those colors? That's pretty. She said the jazz hands just make it even better. I'm so glad you think so. Hello, everybody. Diana said, this is the first time I didn't prep for the block. I'm paying attention, though. Good. You can always pull up the replay and then sew along with me, right? Pause the video, do it, pause the video, do it. Sue, I totally agree. This block would look totally different depending on your color placement. I picked this block because I thought that it kind of reminded me of a little peppermint candy with the swirl. Do you see that? I think because I've added the green in there, you don't see the swirl so much. But maybe if I would have used white fabric, it would have kind of looked like a peppermint little candy, right? Okay, y'all. So, because we have so much sewing to do, we're going to jump right in. I have a pen because I'm going to be marking some seams, and that really helps me sew the right side. We've got lots of triangles, and it's going to be really easy to sew the wrong side when you're joining these pieces. So this just helps me. You can do it, or you don't have to. The first 4 seams we're going to sew is we're going to flip this beige triangle right on top of that green one. And we're sewing the seam right in the middle. So you'll see me, I'm going to flip and mark. Flip and mark. Flip it over and mark it. That's our first 4 seams, y'all. I'm going to bring you over to the sewing machine. I'll make that big because you know which 4 pieces I'm bringing over, so I don't need to show that so much, I don't think. Here we are at the sewing machine. See that little mark? Very easy moving it from over here to accidentally sew that side. So that's why I marked those seams. And we're going to line up those edges nice and pretty, just like that. And we're sewing from edge to edge. We're going to try to keep these fabrics lined up as perfect as possible. There's our first one. And our second. Third and fourth. And I have yet seen a moderator show up today. Would any of you be willing to keep an eye on the chat and mute or delete comments if we have someone coming in that wants to start trouble? Okay, y'all, there's the first 4 seams. of this block. Now we're going to do some pressing. Ooh, Dari said, I will help watch. Okay. Sylvia said, I will keep an eye out for you. All right, let me switch over for just a second, y'all. Let me get this iron warming up. Okay. YouTubes. Dari, I just added you as a moderator. And Sylvia, I'm going to add you as a moderator. Thank you so much. All right, so if you see something that shouldn't be here, someone wants to cause some trouble, all you have to do is really click on their comment, and it'll give you some options like delete comment, put the user in a timeout. That's really all it is to it. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to be pressing these seams to the dark side, y'all. You can press them open if you want. Let's see. You know what? We're going to have quite a few seams coming in along this edge. Let me go ahead and press my seams open today with these two pieces at least, okay? We are going to have some more seams along this edge. So I am going to press it open. It just takes me a little bit longer. When you're pressing these seams, we have triangles cut on that bias, which means these triangles are going to be a little stretchy and will get wonky really easy. So be careful you're not stretching the fabric when you're pressing these seams. And that goes throughout all of it. And as I press them, I'm going to bring them right back down into where they go. Thank you for sharing to Facebook. Thank you so much. All right, this one goes like that. I'm not going to worry about trimming off these the little pointy things that hang off the end. I'm not going to trim those off yet. Geraldine said, Lisa, do you wash your fabric first? No, I'm not a pre-washer. I know lots and lots of quilters are, and they would not do it any other way. And I say do whatever you're comfortable with, but I don't pre-wash my fabrics first. I like to live on the dangerous side, I guess. There we go. And we have one more seam to press open. Dog ears, yes. Thank you. Just trying to pay close attention that I'm not stretching those triangles out as I'm pressing. Anitra is so funny. The post-wash shrink. I love that. It makes it look so quilty, right? But she said, I wish it worked in the shower. Thank you, Miss Nita. Aren't those colors pretty? All right, so that's our first 4 seams sewn and pressed. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start making some half squared triangles. Kind of see how we have this block set up as 4 different units, right? I'm going to separate them just a little bit. Within these 4 units, if you look in the corner of each one of the units, you have a half square triangle. Those are the next seams we're going to sew. So I'm going to flip the blue piece over onto the red. Now this one is kind of self-explanatory when we bring it over. We're sewing that long side, not the short sides. But I'm going to go ahead and mark it anyway. We'll just get in the habit for this block of marking these seams for now. So these will be our 4 next seams we're sewing. And I think I can just bring you to the sewing machine. Thank you, Diana. Okay. Sewing machine. We're bringing over these half square triangle units. Again, we're going to line up these edges as close as we can. Be really careful you're not pulling on them and stretching them because they're stretchy a little bit. There's our first one. Our second. You can see I'm really slowing down and taking my time. Just trying to stay nice and straight. And we have one more. One more. It doesn't want to line up. There we go. It wanted to be the problem child. And now we're pressing at these 4 seams. And these will intersect with this seam right here. So I'm going to press these open too. Oh, this is a high maintenance quilt block. This one's a little high maintenance. If you want, let's go ahead and trim these dog ears before we even press this. See that? I'm just cutting that little tip right off. I'm going to do that for each 4 of these units. The dog ears in this seam will cause a little bit of bulk in your block, so we're just going to trim that right on off and make a mess right on the floor. And we're pressing again. And as we press them, let me just give you a measurement so you can check to see if yours is coming out right. 1, 2, 3.5 by 3.5. That's the measurement this half square triangle should measure once you get it pressed, okay? We're going to bring them back right in place as we press them. Anitra said, okay, how do you know what angle to trim the dog ears? Ooh, I wish I would have seen that before I trimmed them. I can show you with this. Let me flip this one back over. Can you see that, Anitra? Here's your seam. Here's your seam allowance. I trim mine like this. Just like that. Be careful not to cut that stitch right there or to cut off the tip. And there's trimmed dog ears. I don't know. We did this block last year. And I was rewatching that video this morning a little bit just to refresh my memory on this block. And I fast forwarded and skipped around. I don't know if I pressed my seams open when we did it the first time. But I really feel like it's going to help a lot. It just takes me longer. There we go. All right. So we have those sections done. Now I'm going to give it a second. We're going to let everybody catch up just in case anyone is sewing with me live today. That's where we are at this point. What are we doing next? What are we doing next? Ooh, next we're going to be joining these triangles to the half square triangle unit that we just did. Cheryl said, I'm sewing. Okay, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to hold on a second. Then Cheryl, because I don't want to skip too far ahead of you. Thank you, Sonny. Thank you so much. Y'all, I was thinking back this morning, before I started making YouTube videos, and I was just starting my business making quilts on commission. Yep, Dari, we already showed that. You might be behind us a little bit because you had to restart the video. I was thinking back and I did a craft fair and I set up a tent and my quilts and stuff. And someone asked if I would come to her school and teach a quilting class. And y'all, I was so scared, but I just took a leap of faith and I said, okay, I'll do it. If it's a small group, I'll do it. And I did, and I taught them how to make a Dresden plate pillow. And we did, what else did we do? We made a small quilt. I don't remember what it was now. But that was my first teaching experience. And it was an awesome group of wonderful women who were eager to learn. So I think that helped a lot. But yeah, I think I've come quite a ways since then. I would like to go back and reteach that class because I think they would get so much more out of it now versus that being the first class that I ever taught. I feel like if we did a redo, they would be well on their way. Well, what was kind of nice about that class is we were in person, so they were sitting at a sewing machine, and I would come to each one of them and make sure everything was set up right, you know. So that was awesome. Y'all, I hear thunder, and the sky looks a little gray. I'm hoping that we're okay. I might unplug my computer, but it's fully charged, so we should be okay. Y'all are so supportive. Okay, we're going to move on. We're attaching these smaller triangle units to the half square triangle unit. For this, I am going to split the screen up. So if you're watching on a cell phone, it's going to look a little small, but I want you to see the progression because we're going to be doing a lot of sewing before we move back and press any seams. All right, and so we're going to do this. We're flipping this triangle over. When you flip it, here's what I want you to see. This triangle is longer than the half square triangle unit. So when you flip it over, I want you to line it up so it's lined up at the corner and along these edges, and you have a triangle, little smidgen that hangs over the edge, just like that. But this corner of your triangle should be lined up to the edge. And I'm marking that seam just like that. I did not know we were going to get thunderstorms today. All right, so there's our next 4 pieces. I'm going to split the screen. Hopefully you can see the progression of which I'm taking these pieces over. Nice and lined up right on that corner. It's going to look a little funny because you've got that little tip that hangs over, right? There's our first one. And the second. And we're bringing in the 4th piece. You know what? We will press this. We will press this before we move on. Separate our pieces. Let us press these before we begin adding that next piece. And let's just take a look if it's going to matter if I press these open or not. That would be really nice if I could just press it one way. think I will. I think I'm going to press these seams towards the triangle. See how it kind of wants to go that way anyway because of this seam. I'm pressing my seam towards the triangle. You can press yours open if you like. All right, so there's our first piece. Ooh, yeah, I hear thunder. I'm missing a ton of the conversation, but I see y'all talking about quilting on leather. I've never done it before, but I've seen quilts at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival that were done on leather. Oh my glory. They're stunning. They are stunning. Focus, Lisa. Don't get your pieces turned around. There we go. Vicky, your husband's going to a nursing home, and your nephew is going to bring him. You know what? Sometimes I think that's probably a good thing, at least for a little while he recovers, because you know they can keep an eye on him, and you know it's kind of like the rehab. They're there and they can make sure he gets the medicine on time, you know, all the stuff. So that'll let you get some rest for when he's ready to come home. You'll be rested up and ready to take care of him as he finishes recovering. Ooh, you have half of a hide. Mika share. Ooh. Anitra, I've seen your quilting. I'm going to tell you what. Since I got the computer, I've been solely relying on the computer to do my quilting, and I have not done free motion myself in a year. So I would have to practice before I tag teamed with you, because I've seen your quilting, and even on my good day, I'm not there. Not anymore. All right. So those pieces are on, and now we have this lonely little triangle we're flipping over. And again, when we do, we're lining up this edge right on that corner. And let's just mark that seam. Just like that. Actually, I'm going to be really honest with you. The first time we made this a year ago, I was very intimidated by this block. And because of that, I was intimidated for this block in this quilt. But she's coming out really nicely. So this block might be one of those that the more you make it, the easier it gets. The more you make it, the more comfortable you get too, because at this point I'm like, even though it's a lot of sewing and pressing, it's easier this time than it was the first time. And don't forget, y'all, if you have to leave, come back for the replay, because we are going to do a show and tell. And if you're here and you're a member of the creative crew, you have a few minutes if you want to share the progress. If you haven't shared yet, or if you've made more progress since the last show and tell, You have a few minutes to go show your pictures. We're just lining it up right like that. Okay, doke. We're doing lots of back and forth today. And let me just show you which way I plan on pressing this seam. See, when I hold it just like this, it wants to gravitate towards the triangle, towards the left, right? That's the way I'm going to press mine. Of course, if you want, you could open that right up and press it if you want. Don't tug on those pieces, though. Be careful not to do that, because it would be really easy to stretch this out of square. See how square that is? It would be really easy to stretch that and to make it a little wonky. And once you press it, you're going to have your little dog ears. I'm going to trim those off. This time, I'm just cutting them straight with that raw edge, just like that. Ooh, Mary said I have a brother scan and cut coming. Ooh, that is so exciting, Mary. Oh my goodness. I'm going to tell you, I love mine. I love my cutting machine. I made this shirt with it. And I'll tell you, I'm really starting to struggle cutting out applique, and that cutting machine saves me so much time and aggravation. Sonny said, nice block. I would have never guessed to see it come together like that. I'm going to tell you what, it looks really, really scary trying to figure out how it's made, right? Just looking at the picture of it. But if you break it down into individual units, it becomes a lot less scary, right? And I'm going to say this, even though I think it's a stunning block, the second time making it has gone much smoother and a lot easier for me. But this is a lot of cutting and sewing and pressing. I think it is a time-consuming quilt block. And I do know with my busy schedule, I probably would not make a full quilt out of this quilt block just because she's a little time-consuming. However, I think if you did, it would be a showstopper. All right, so this is where we are now. Our 4 units have come down to 2 sections, right? There's our 2 sections for the 4 units. I do not have an AccuQuilt. That's one of the things I do not have. I'm going to give it a second because I know Cheryl's trying to sew with me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The sky's not as dark. Maybe that storm's going to pass us by. I hope so. Because I have some quilting to do, and I'm not going to, I don't plug in my electronic stuff during a thunderstorm. But I have another quilt to put on the frame today and get quilted. So I'm hoping that that storm has just passed us by and that's it. Zoya said, I have a Cricut and the hubby uses it more than I do. You can do so much with those machines, right? You can do so much. All right, y'all, we're going to be joining 4 more seams. We're going to flip. At least I am. I don't know that it matters. Whatever side you want to flip over, I'm going to flip mine over like this. It really does not matter, I don't think, which one of these triangles you have on top. As long as you know you're sewing the long part of the triangle and not the shorter side. So we're going to bring these over. And try to line them up as nicely as possible. When you're sewing these, I feel some stretch in there. I don't know if you see that. Be careful you're not pulling and stretching. Let the machine feed this through, okay? It would be really easy to get this part out of shape. When we're done sewing these 4, I'll show you again trimming the dog ears or how I do it. There's probably a million different ways to do it. But I will show you with these because basically all these piece sections, we're creating a half square triangle with them. Try to stay straight right on through at the bottom of this seam. I just put my finger there to sort of control that fabric. You want that seam to stay nice and straight all the way through. And we have one more. Cooperate pieces. Okie doke. We are coming right along. It's a lot of work to get to this point, y'all. Let's take a look at these seams and see if they're going to dictate to us pressing open or not. You could press them open. You most certainly could if you want to, but I'm not. When I hold mine like that, it kind of wants to go over to the left. So that's the way I'm going to press mine. All right, with the dog ears, here's our little triangle. I like to cut mine this way and this way. We're just cutting off this little tiny tip that's going to extend beyond the fabric when we open this up. But be careful not to cut your stitches right here. Just like that. Just that tiny little tip. And then you scooch them off right in the floor. Right in the floor like that. And we're pressing again. Again, see that stretch? Be really careful you're not stretching when you're pressing these seams. I really feel like with this block, what could easily happen is you could stretch your pieces out and the block is not going to be square. It might be too big towards the top and too small towards the bottom once you get everything together. And I also feel like with all of the seams that make up this block, if your block is coming out too small in the ends, you're going to need to scoot over and use that scant 1/4 of an inch. We have lots of seams in this block. At this point, let's take a measurement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. 6.5 by 6.5. And we'll lay these pieces back out as we get them pressed. Oh, nope, I heard a little bit of thunder. All right, and this one's going to go like that. Yeah, tonight we're doing a thread painting workshop over on Patreon. Like I told them the other day, I am not the world's greatest thread painter. I wouldn't even call this a thread painting class because I'm just not that good at it, but it's something I enjoy doing. I love doing it. So, yeah, that's what we're doing tonight. This one goes like that. See that pinwheel starting to happen? And then, y'all, at this point, this block is going to finish up just like a 4-patch. Bonita said she just finished prepping everything for tonight. Yay! That's exciting. There we go. Yeah. Ooh, y'all, I love this wheels block so much more than the one we did a year ago. That one was pretty. She turned out a little wonky. She was still pretty, but I really like the colors I've got going on right here. Jardine said, to stop the stretching of the fabric, could I put a fusible on the back of the fabric? That would help stop it a little bit, but let me just tell you, with all the seams in this block, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in each one of these 4 pieces. Then we're going to have the additional seams here. I think you could certainly do it. And if you were using clothing that was stretchy, I would say most definitely yes. But that interfacing, even if you use a thin one like I do, it still adds a little thickness. So you'll really want to back off of your 1/4 inch seam allowance because, believe it or not, that interfacing eats up a little bit of space, and your block will most definitely come out smaller if you use a true 1/4 inch seam allowance if you're adding interfacing. Yeah, I would much rather do what Anitra said and use the Tiro Magic. It's like a really thick starch. I don't know if it's exactly starch or not, but you could starch the heck out of these fabrics, and that does help a lot too. That does help a lot. And if you want to stop the stretch, probably starch your fabrics. I would recommend doing that versus adding an interfacing, just because of the thickness of the interfacing. Sheila, I see you're heading out. I hope you have I hope you're not going to have to drive in this storm. You're not far away from me, so I don't know if you hear that thunder or not. We are flipping this over. We're going to sew this seam and this seam. We're going to line it up. See that? That is exactly what I talk about when I say getting a little wonky or stretching out of shape. See that difference? That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and go with it, but that's what can happen. And that's pretty typical when you're working with triangles that are cut this way. I'm going to see if I can't scooch that over. A little bit, and hopefully not make this too wonky. That's better. Let's see how we did on this one. Oh, that one looks pretty good. Move it back one more time. Let's take a look at these seams just by flipping it over. Do you see how that seam wants to lay over to the left? I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to press it that way. And this one is the bottom half of our block. And this will be the top half of our block. And we're going to have one more seam to press to finish this block up. Why use the 3 pieces on the same color? You could cut that out as a strip, but then you're going to have to cut this off. You're going to have to cut that off. You're going to have to make sure you put your little blue triangle in the right place. I'm sure there are many ways to make this block without doing the 3 separate triangles. This is just the way that I know how to make this block. I'm sure it can be done many different ways. Now, one thing I want to show you, as these come together, do I have that in the right place? Nope. There. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. I had it turned around. See how easy you can flip these pieces around? One thing I want to show you as we have these pressed. See how the tip of my triangle, I got a little thread right there. See that tip? See this extra that extends beyond that? That's going to be your seam allowance when you join the 2 halves together. See this extra right there? That's the point of our triangle that comes down, and we have this extra 1/4 inch right there. So when we piece that, that extra right there is going to help us not cut off the point of this triangle and this triangle. Hopefully that's the plan, right? Let me get this little thread out of there. There we go. All right, there's that one seam left. And because we pressed our seams going over like that, these 2 seams are going in opposite directions, which will help me nest that seam right in the middle. One seam left. And she's done. I'm going to press this before we do a big reveal on the finished block. Yes, if you have questions, I would ask. That's the only way you're going to learn, right? Is if you ask questions. I don't think there's ever any dumb questions, y'all. Never. Now with these 4 seams coming right in the middle, you got some thickness there, right? If you were doing stitch in the ditch and some custom quilting, that might be an issue. So you might want to force this seam open and press that seam open. Y'all, I'm just not feeling that particular about it today. So I'm going to press this seam over to one side. If you spin that seam, if you're good at doing that, I would do that. That'll give you a little less thickness where all of these points come together. But I'm just going to press it right on over to one side. I think it's really good to know where your strengths and weaknesses are. It's not worth me losing my joy. The thickness right there. and struggling with it, I would rather just press it over and be done with it and move on to the next thing. But I do know there's some quilters out there that thickness right there would steal their joy and they would press that open. So it's all in what you like to do. Look at the pretty point right there. Okie doke. Let's take a finished look, a real good look at the wheels block. Isn't she pretty? Wow, I'm loving this. I'm loving that pattern right in the middle with that pinwheel. Isn't that pretty? She should have come out to 12.5 by 12.5. She's a little big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.5. She's a little big. I'll have to sacrifice a little bit and trim her up a little bit. Which means I might lose these points right here. I'm going to have to trim her up just a smidgen to 12.5 by 12.5. So maybe if I would have used a true 1/4 inch seam instead of a scant in these two seams, I probably would have come out right at 12.5 by 12.5. So at this point, I might lose a little bit of these points in order to trim her up. Overall, I'm okay with that because everything else looks so pretty. Anisha said, don't make her feel bad if she's a little big. No, no, I love her. I will trim her up to make her play nice with everything else, but isn't that pretty? Okay, y'all, before I switch the screen and start sharing for tomorrow we're going back to applique, and we're going to be doing the mittens, block number 10. So the mittens, we have a choice to make. It's going to be a personal choice. But let's take a look at the applique for the mittens. Here we go. Here's one of the mittens. You got the basic shape. You got the little cuff. And you've got the mitten shape. And then there's all the accent pieces on the inside. Y'all, that is optional if you want to do that. To be really honest, I'm not cutting out all these little tiny pieces. What I might do tomorrow is mark them with a chalk pen or something, a water-soluble pen, something on my applique. And instead of cutting out these little pieces, I might do a satin stitch right there to add those accents. I don't know that I'm cutting out all of these little tiny pieces for applique. And even if you did, how are you going to stitch them down? Unless you do a free motion stitch. So you can either just omit them and do a solid mitten, or you can do an accent stitch like I'm going to do tomorrow. And then we do have this piece, which you can cut out if you want to, or you can just draw this on your background and do a nice little decorative stitch there. We'll go over more options tomorrow, but yeah, you have some choices to make if you want to cut all that out. Anitra says, I vote free motion. I knew you would. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. Let's move over and take a look at what y'all have been doing since the last time we shared the pictures. My screen's gonna look a little crazy, and I'm really not trying to rush, but I hear more thunder. We're coming over to the creative crew. Let me refresh the page and knock that out of the way. We're not going through the whole page, y'all. We're just skimming right to this top announcement right there. I just want to make sure it's showing up on the screen. Let me do this because I think I shrunk it some. Wowzers. There we go. That's better. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Let's open this up. First up, we have Miss Beth. This is Beth's progress on the Down Home Christmas quilts. Beth is coming right along. Look at her wreath block, y'all. Yeah. Look at the fabric she used for the deer applique. Isn't she coming right along? Yes. Beth, I'm so proud of you. Keep up the good job. Yeah, she is coming right along. Next up, we have Jenny. Jenny said, I have the wreath ready to attach to the background in block number 7, so I'm catching up, she says. Wow! Ooh, your sashing color is very close to mine. Look at there, everybody. Cheryl said her favorite block is the log cabin. Jenny, you were coming right along too. I kind of like just laying out the pieces with the sashing and the cornerstones so you get a really good idea of how everything's coming together, right? Gives you a great preview of the quilt. Awesome colors. Whoopsies. Next up, we have Cheryl, and Cheryl said, so far, not working ahead, trying to use any tips that might come along. Sashing is going to be a struggle, trying to use only what I have. I will figure something out. I'm sure you will, Miss Cheryl. Even if you do a scrappy sashing. Look at that. Ooh, look at her wreath block, y'all. She got creative and put a little center in the middle of her bow. Look at there. Oh, that adds so much to it. Why did I not think of that? That really makes the bow pop. I wonder if I can go back and add something in there. Very nice. Very nice. Y'all, we saw a little bit of Cheryl's progress the other day. Remember, she said she used the fairy frost, the blue fabric with the sparklies. Y'all are just doing so good. Next up, we have Miss Dari. Dari has a couple pictures. Here is Dari's churn dash block, y'all. Look at your half square triangles and how perfect they are. I kind of like that you used the same tone fabric for the center of your churn dash, yet it's slightly different. Very smart. I like that. Yes, this makes me think peppermint candy too. I see peppermint candy. Oopsies. And this is Dari's 16 patch. I like that plaid fabric. That looks very Christmassy. Good job with your points. This looks really good. She said, these are coming along. Yes, they are, Dari. Good job. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of plaids too myself. I love them. And then we have Trinita. She said, I'm working on the cornerstones and sashing. So there we go. She's separated her pieces some. She's working on her sashing and cornerstones, getting that sewn up. Dari, Trinita, I am so excited for you moving into your new place. I know you are so happy. Mary, I know. I'm trying not to eat any candy. Last night, I did eat a couple Twizzlers, I will confess. But I'm trying not to eat candy. But with this quilt, y'all, I see peppermint everywhere. Trinita, you've made yourself quite the little design wall right there. That wall is perfect for that. And then, okay, this is our last share for today. This is from Miss Kim. Kim is she just finished up the log cabin block. Oh, Kim, I'm going to tell you, the white and red fabric around the center of your log cabin, I love it. I love it. I have some plates that look like that, or a plate that looks like that now. It's one of my favorites. The blue and white and the red and white like that. I love it. I have a small piece of blue and white that I've just been holding on to. Very nice, Kim. She looks very nice and square. Y'all are doing so good. Yeah, it's been so much fun. Okay, I'm going to be really honest. Although I love the colors on, this is my color palette choice right now. And I'm just sort of gravitating towards these colors the last several months. But it's so much fun to see all the different colors y'all are using. I really enjoy seeing all the colors that everybody else is using. Nice job, y'all. We probably will not do a show and tell tomorrow. Okay, and that'll give y'all another today and tomorrow to make some more progress. Let me get this switched over. That'll give you a day and a half to make some more progress and share your newest blocks if you want to. Here's my wheels block. That's so pretty. And I did get some sashing done last night while we were Zooming. So I got some quilting done and some sashing. So there's the empty spot for the wheels block. And we're coming right along. I think that's everything for today, y'all. I'm just looking to see if I forgot anything, and I don't think so. We'll be going over the edges. Delia, I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking me, so let me stick around just for a minute to make sure I can answer your question. And I have a lot of chat to go back and catch because y'all, sometimes the chat just goes by so fast, I cannot keep up with it. So I know I miss a lot of comments. I probably miss a lot of questions. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Dari, I'll see you tonight. Delia, if you want to ask your question again, will you be going over the edges? I'm not quite sure if that was meant towards me or if you were asking someone else that I was sharing pictures of, because sometimes there's a delay from what I'm saying and what you're seeing. So And I was thinking I was going to get some quilting done this afternoon, but it's looking kind of ominous again. Cheryl said sashing. We will be covering the sashing. Now, if you have questions about the sashing, how I made it, I want you to go check out video 1 because it's possible you missed it. In video 1, we made the sashing units and we made the cornerstone units, and I walked you through making those. And then I've just been making mine here and there, trying to fit it in with everything else I've got going on. So like last night, I did 4 of the sashing units, and I still have more to make. So I did show how to make those. And at the end, I'm going to show you, we're not going to put the whole quilt together live, but I will show you. Okay, there we go. See this top row of sashing? I'm going to sew one of those with you. And then I'm going to sew one of these rows together with you. But I do break it down, the assembly in the pattern. I do break it down and show you the order. But we will assemble at least 1 row of sashing and 1 row of the quilt together. Oh, Lindarella, thank you. Thank y'all so much. The borders. We will go over how to attach the borders. And I can already tell you. Okay, so the live series, before we go, is 12 lives back to back every single day as we make the blocks. And block 1, I showed the corners and the sashings, cornerstones and sashing, so you could be working on that. I do know with everything else that I am doing in addition to this quilt that I will not get this whole quilt sewn together overnight to come live the very next day to add the borders. So as we approach block number 12, we will make a plan to come back live to work on the borders of this quilt. So I won't leave you hanging on the borders, but I doubt very seriously that we do block 12 one day and I'm ready to put the borders on the next day. I doubt that very highly. I'm fast, but I'm not that fast. All right, y'all. I'm going to go turn off this computer or unplug it at least. I hope y'all have a fantastic rest of your day. Some of you I'll see this evening, and I'll be keeping an eye on the updates on Creative Crew for more of your pictures. I hope you have a fantastic evening. Bye, everybody.